All Deacon did was jump out a window and kind of just leave Taylor to fend for herself with Sheila. So if Sheila put anything together, yeah, Taylor would have been in high danger and Deacon was just outside chilling. What's up, everybody? Wanted to do a quick review of the past week of Bold and the Beautiful from March 30th to April 3rd, which was a very much heavy Sheila, Deacon, and Taylor week, which is fine by me. It's been very campy, which we'll get into. I can do campy on a soap opera. And a lot of the soaps were hella campy in the 90s and some of the early 2000s. So I can do campy. There's a problem, though, when soaps get campy, is that they dumb down the characters so much. And I do feel like a lot of that was happening with this Taylor Deacon affair and Sheila kind of slowly finding it out over this past week. We, of course, left off from the week before, Sheila going upstairs with her knife to save Taylor because she heard Taylor moaning but thought that somehow Taylor was in trouble. She was making love to Sheila's husband, Deacon. Luckily, Sheila was yelling for Taylor's name before she tried to open the door and before she kicked the door down, so Deacon was able to get out the window, and Sheila goes into Taylor's room with the knife so dramatically, but Taylor is alone in her bed at that point. Deacon is outside, realizing he left his shirt, but I don't think that really played into Sheila figuring things out this week. Sheila told Taylor how she thought she heard a noise, thought somebody was taking advantage of Taylor. Taylor just wanted Sheila out the whole time. Sheila eventually comes to the realization that maybe Taylor was pleasuring herself. Maybe she needed some me time. Maybe that's what the noise was. So at first, Sheila's not putting it together that it's moaning. She thinks it's Taylor in trouble. And then after she barges in, she finally puts it together that maybe Taylor was moaning. And Sheila thinks that she was pleasuring herself. Monday's episode was funny. I'll give it that. If they were going for comedy, they kind of succeeded on that end. But Taylor kind of berated Sheila, saying that she shouldn't have come into her house unannounced. She shouldn't have come in at all. Steffy could have been home, and Steffy would have called the police, which is true. Really ridiculous for Sheila to break in like she did. And then Taylor, when Sheila left, Taylor called Deacon with the good news, telling him that Sheila didn't see him, doesn't know anything. When Sheila went home to Deacon, he was pretending to be asleep, basically. But something Sheila did see at Taylor's was a pizza box, which came into play. Pizza box from where she and Deacon, the business that they run. So that was the big clue as Sheila started to think about it over the week, which I'm glad she did, because Sheila's never been a slow character. She's usually one of the more cunning characters, and that's why I say when soap operas go the route of being so over-the-top campy, the characters can suffer and be dumb. And some of that conversation between Taylor and Sheila on Monday was quite dumb. Even if it was funny, it was kind of dumb. But the next day, Taylor let Steffy know about what happened with Deacon the night before, even though Steffy tried to forbid them from being together because it's too dangerous, because if Sheila found out, she would go wild and crazy. And then had to tell Steffy that Sheila did end up there with a knife. Steffy obviously freaked out, as she should have. I mean, Steffy was very much in the right in all of the conversations with Taylor this week. Taylor and Steffy had a lot of repetitive conversations over the past week, it felt like Steffy was the parent and Taylor was acting young. Those are how all of the Steffy and Taylor scenes came across to me. What was also kind of stupid was that Sheila was with Deacon acting shocked that Taylor was so afraid of her when Sheila barged into Taylor's room with a knife. Because even if you take the knife out of that scenario, Sheila has tried to kill Taylor in the past. So I thought Sheila was acting ridiculous, that Taylor was acting so scared of Sheila when she had every right to act scared. With this story, at first we had Hope and Deke discussing their father and how Deacon is cheating on Sheila. And at first it came off like Hope and Deke were kind of rooting for the fact that Deacon was being a cheater, which seemed kind of ridiculous. I mean, they really did seem happy that Deacon was cheating. But as the week went along, Hope had become very concerned that if Sheila finds out, Deacon would obviously be in trouble. So Hope and Deke discuss with each other that it is probably too dangerous for Taylor and Deacon to carry on their affair. But shouldn't they have thought that way the entire week? Why are they rooting for cheating? Maybe they just hate Sheila. I don't know. I haven't been watching for 3 years, and they probably have reason to not like Sheila. I mean, it is Sheila. But yeah, like I already said, Steffy and Taylor had a lot of scenes this week that were very repetitive, where Steffy had to point out that Taylor could be killed in this situation, and Taylor just went on and on about how much she loves Deacon. It's very, very typical Bradley Bell, Bold and the Beautiful that I expect. We have really low-level dialogue that is extremely repetitive and not deep whatsoever. It's what I've been saying for weeks now since I've been covering this again. Because, on Beyond the Gates, I complained that it could be very boring, but I do feel as though they at least attempt to motivate most of their characters. Some characters on that show need a lot more motivation. Whereas on this show, it's so totally plot-driven that there's no real meat to the material. And you can just see that in how shallow most of the dialogue and the scenes can be. But with The Bold and the Beautiful, like I've been saying, it is an easy watch because the episodes are so short. And it can be extremely dramatic. There was some highly dramatic music this week in the Sheila storyline that I did enjoy. So at one point during the week, Steffy confronted Deacon about Sheila coming over and grabbing a knife and how Deacon put her mom in jeopardy. Once again, Steffy was 100% right, because all Deacon did was jump out a window and kind of just leave Taylor to fend for herself with Sheila. So if Sheila put anything together, yeah, Taylor would have been in high danger and Deacon was just outside chilling. So Steffy was right here again. She basically begged Deacon to stay away from her mom. One of the only lines of the week that I did enjoy was Steffy telling Deacon that if he wants to cheat on his wife, he can, but do it with someone else that's not her mom. So more good scenes by Steffy this week, even if the dialogue was very repetitive. But then Sheila ended up finding Deacon's boots in the house and that there was sand in them, and she put together the pizza box and now the sand. And even though Deacon came over to talk to Sheila, came home to talk about the business, Sheila's suspicion was on high alert for the rest of the week. She told Deacon that she won't let anyone or anything come between them because their marriage means everything to her. But Deacon still went to see Taylor at her office, and Sheila arrived there too to see if that's where Deacon had gone. Sheila got into a nurse uniform, put on a face mask so that she could get around Taylor's office. And, really throwing it old school to Sheila here in her nurse outfit. She cracked the door to Taylor's office to see Deacon and Taylor inside. Deacon basically holding Taylor by the cheek. And when Deacon left, Sheila came in saying, "Nurse Carter is here and it's time to take your medicine," which was more campiness. But it did make me laugh again. And then she asked Taylor if she is having an affair with her husband. That was our cliffhanger. We'll see if Taylor can get out of this one. I do want to see how they write Sheila finding all this information out, because they're building it up now, and this is Sheila we're talking about. If anyone would want revenge, it would be her. So that got pretty much most of the airtime this past week. It was entertaining. I'll leave it at that. Literally the only other thing I have in my notes that had any airtime was the whole RJ and Electra storyline. Electra finally did realize that she didn't post the picture of her and RJ on her own social media. So she asked Ivy if she posted the picture, and Ivy said that she did, and she's basically doing all this to try and get Electra to move on with her life with RJ. Now, I don't know about all of you, but if somebody got onto my social media and posted something that I didn't want to post, no matter what it was, I would feel violated and upset. But of course, Electra feels none of that and just goes along with Ivy, pushing the RJ agenda onto Electra, pushing her agenda that Will is an insensitive jerk like his father. At one point, Ivy is saying that she feels like Electra's mother, which I would hope isn't the case. I've seen someone online, I don't know if it was in the comments or on Twitter, saying that Ivy could end up being Electra's mother. But correct me if I'm wrong. If she is, wouldn't that actually make Electra and RJ blood related and not just cousins by marriage anymore? So I hope that's not the case, because enough of these soap operas with that shit. But RJ and Electra did have another moment at the end of the week, and Ridge and Brooke witnessed them kissing. They were kind of rooting it on. I don't know what it is with this show with all the old folks so involved with the younger folks' love lives, but that is how that story ended for the week, and it was kind of the only story that got some play besides the highly dramatic and highly campy Sheila mess. But it is mess that is entertaining me, even if some of it is very dumbed down.